Welcome to my channel. Unfortunately, at this moment I have a little bit of art block, so instead of coloring something new, I decided that I want to film interesting tag. It's called Mid-Year Coloring Book Freakout tag. I think that it was adopted by Danny Buttons from ColorTube, and I know that it's already far from mid-year, but I already saw so many fun videos for this tag that I decided that I also need to answer these questions. And the first question is your best picture you have colored so far in this year. Well, choice was complicated, but from the beginning I knew that it would be something from Kirby Razana's books, because that's the books and that's the artist which I enjoy to color this year the best. And I think that my best works were in World Within Worlds, because you know that here I color only if I have my full inspiration, my own idea, when I am sure that I hadn't repeated anyone's color palette. And I think that my best works here are this Space Compass. It was challenging, it was complicated. I had to use a mix of polychromos and Prismacolor pencils, and I struggled a lot with the central part, but I think that in the end everything worked exactly as I expected. Even this galaxy background, I was afraid that it won't be visible on the page, but now I think that that's exactly like I imagined. It was a long story, but now I am very proud of this work. And also I decided that my best works are those pair of pages with dragon collage. We have the one part is here with the head of the dragon. I think that here most of all I am proud of my metal work, then how I managed to divide those various objects into several colorful groups, similar colors for the sky, for the building, the same colors I also used for the unicorn, similar colors for the armor on the unicorn and on the dragon. So everything looks relatively well balanced, and of course I am proud of my stone in the middle. And I have a complimentary page. I don't know why they are published separately, but that's definitely second part of the dragon. And here we have this magical box, and it was quite fun to color this mechanical hand. Again, it was a very good lesson how to color metal, how to work on the highlights. I decided here to use another palette for the gears and metal parts to make bigger difference with the previous page. But for the dragon, for the space background, for the tree, I used the same colors to create second part of the same spread. And of course the most challenging was to color this magical glass ball in the central part. I wanted it to be a light, but at the same time to show that it's glass, that it has a lot of reflections and highlights. I hope that I managed to show it. And the last work which I consider the best so far, it was a spread in Fragile World. Maybe I decided to include it into this video because it was also study in patience, because for me it's always complicated to finish such spreads with pencils. And I think that even if I wasn't sure in the very beginning in my color choice for iguanas, I think that in the end it worked well. I tried to show this difference between their life on the stones and their underwater life. I decided to use more orange to show that they are trying to gather heat from the sunshine to gather heat for their bodies, and in the same time they are also capable to go under the water to spend time there to find food. I did it after looking very interesting documentary, and it was like everything went well together. I watched the story, I was inspired to color. I remembered that, oh, I have this book and perfect picture. So after several hours, couple of days, I managed to do this spread, and I'm still proud of it. Well, the next question is the most colored book in this year. Well, I don't think that I have one most colored books. If we talk about artists, that definitely will be books by Teresa Goodrich. I'm glad that I still enjoy coloring them, and I'm also glad that you enjoy to follow my tutorials. So even if I want to make a break for months to color, not to color something in her books, you always send me some requests to do, and I'm gladly return to her books. And because I collected a lot of them already, I'm never bored to color in her books. I can do something seasonal, I can color landscape, I can color interior design, I can color something with flowers, and I can practice to color many things. And well, among all these books, I think Main Street was the most colored during this year. I don't know, maybe one day I will manage to finish this book. We have here several pictures which are not very inspiring for me, but it's just a couple of them which I don't want to color at all. Like this one. Oh, this one. Everything else is quite nice, and I think that at least one page for 2 months or even one page a month I try to color here, and in such way my Main Street starts to have more and more opened shops. I also try to experiment with colors, because my main fear here is that I will be using repeated color combos. For the buildings, what we can use? The same colors for the bricks, the same colors for the roof, for the stone, for the wood. And I really try to experiment. At least I try to make bricks with gray color palette, with terracotta colors, with brown colors, sometimes even something more interesting like blue stones. And that's how I try to keep my interest into coloring these books. For me, they are easy to color, and I usually start to color them when I feel that I am not ready for something very challenging, like Kerber Razana's books. So for me, it's a very relaxing story when I color here, and that's why Teresa Goodrich definitely remains my most colored artist for this year. But apart from this book, I also colored a lot in Manuel de Bonheur. Even if now I think that Symphony of Cute Animals is my more favorite book by Kanoko Yugusa. Well, in Symphony I love pictures a little bit more comparing to Menuet, but in Menuet I love paper a little bit more. I really enjoy working with Prismacolors here. I think that in this Japanese edition, Prismacolor pencils, they blend like butter. I love how they work on this paper. I still struggle with Symphony of Cute Animals, and that's why in Menuet I did bigger amount of pictures. Again, I try to do at least one page for couple of months or even more frequently. And during this year I managed to do those spreads, this one and this one with sunflowers, and this one. Again, it's never boring to color here, because even we have animals and birds, still pictures they are different. You can select something new, you can select totally different color palettes, And as I said, here I even don't mind to do the background with pencils. So that's my probably second most frequently colored book. And surprisingly, the third was Paradise by Fabiana Attanasio. Here we have question number 5, and it's your favorite new artist or publishing company. So I will skip from the second to the fifth question, because if we started to talk about Paradise, it was a book which helped me to discover Fabiana Attanasio. Of course, I knew about this artist because I saw her illustrations to the fairy tales like Pinocchio, Snow White, and other fairy tales. And sorry, but I totally disliked those illustrations. I disliked their style, composition, they were too simplified for me, more for children's book, and they were worse for me comparing even to Maria Trolle. So when I saw flip through of mythographic books by Fabiana Attanasio, I was so surprised that it came from the same artist. Well, when I purchased Frozen Fantasies, I realized that I love her style. We won't be talking about hidden objects, but the general composition and her ability to draw everything: faces, animals, birds, flowers, architecture. So I really realized that I love her art. And when I got Paradise, I wasn't impressed so much, but it was somehow a book where it's very easy to color. I still don't know how to explain such thing. There are books which I admire as an art, like Tomich or other like Colorless Kingdom, but it's complicated to color them. But there are books with more simplified pictures where it's very easy to color and where I enjoy each moment when I don't need to struggle with the color choice, with materials, and I managed to color a lot of things here. I started from this one, and that's where I realized that for me the best way will be to combine watercolors and pencils. That's what I did for this one and for this one, and I managed to finish quite a lot of pictures. Considering how many books I own, those 5 or 6 finished pictures here, for me it's a lot. That's definitely one of my favorites. This one is also quite good. And a very unusual one where I decided to experiment more with colors, and again I combined watercolors and pencils. I wasn't sure that in the end it will look good, but I think that now it looks quite nice and festive, and even those strange things which are so loved by Fabiana Attanasio, they are blended quite well into the main image. So probably Fabiana was my main discovery for this year. She definitely pleasantly surprised me, and in the future I think that I will purchase her books. Well, what I missed. Newly released coloring book you haven't colored yet but want to. Oh, here it's very easy. It's my biggest shame that I already own this Voyage book for several months, and that's another book where I absolutely admire art. It's more complicated comparing to Paradise. I can call it intimidating, but at the same time quite inspiring. I want to color a lot of pictures here, and honestly I don't have any explanation why I hadn't started it yet. I found cotton bank style challenging but quite interesting. It's like you are solving puzzle, trying to select colors for the main elements, trying to create well-balanced composition, and in the same time to select which will be the most important elements, which will be secondary elements. I do love her also his style. He also is capable to draw anything, and I absolutely love covers of this mythographic series. I think that I can purchase these books just because of their beautiful art on the cover. So Voyage is my newly released coloring book, which I definitely want to color as soon as possible. Well, and the next one is also the most anticipated release of the coloring book, which you are waiting for the second part of the year. And again, it will be by Joseph Katzenbank. I think that it will be mythical words or something like this. Or I will put you on the screen this next book in mythographic series, which will be released in the beginning of October. Of course, I will wait for a flip through. And now I have difficulties with getting new books because book depositories stopped to deliver to Ukraine, but I think that somehow I will manage to get it because I am a huge fan of Katzenbank. And the second most awaited book is Christmas book by Teresa Kudrich. I hadn't seen anything from this book, any pictures yet, but I know that soon we will have new Christmas book and then books about gnomes. Very fun. I think that it's something new for Teresa Kudrich. Again, I will put covers on the screen, and I hope that it will be a nice addition to my coloring collection. Next question is, did you try any new coloring techniques? Sadly, no. In the beginning of the year, in January, I planned to color more with alcohol markers. Then, when I abandoned everything, I colored just with pencils. And even now, I wasn't ready to return to markers or to try something new. Maybe the thing which I am really happy to try for was to use more of water-soluble watercolor pencils for the background. Usually I prefer to do backgrounds with watercolor paints or with acrylic paints if I want more solid and plain cover, but this background I made with pencils and I was crazy happy because I have nice watercolor pencils like Mondeluz and I want to use them more frequently, but I didn't know actually how to use them. I discovered that if you work on the good paper, you can create quite beautiful effects. I deliberately wanted this effect with those artificial stains on the background, and pencils, they were quite helpful for such effect. So in the books where paper allows to work with water-soluble materials, with water-soluble pencils, I definitely will try to use my Kohinoor Mondeluz more. And in the beginning of the year, I also planned to learn how to color better sky and cloud. At least sky and clouds I practiced how to color, so I did several types of such pictures. For example, here I tried to practice how to do probably it's early morning because it's a wild swan fairy tale, and early in the morning she has to finish her last short for her brother. And I decided to use a little bit of pink and magenta together with traditional blue colors. For the clouds, I also practiced various color combos. The same picture which I already demonstrated you with Galapagos Island, where I worked on the clouds highlighted by the bright sun. So I added a little bit of orange on the side of the cloud together with lavender and blue colors. I think that it also worked quite nicely. Then I practiced in the books by Jasmine Beckett Griffiths, where you can color in more fantasy way and you can be more experimental with your color palettes on the clouds. So I have this dramatic clouds for the vault. I have this totally fantasy greenish clouds for the fantasy land of clockwork dragon links. I think that it's something in steampunk style, and I decided to use these unusual colors, blue-green for the sky and the same reflection on the clouds. And the next one, much more tender and delicate, to create a background behind my Captain Molly Morgan. All these pictures I did during this year, so you can see that I continue to practice. Also, I did fantasy clouds in Mythic Vaults, here for Atlas, again for more dramatic look, and currently I'm working on stormy clouds here. So that's at least one promise which I made to myself and which I try to maintain and to fulfill. What book do you want to finish most this year? Well, I stopped to make myself such promises. Maybe I never would finish any of the books. I know that I continue to color in Main Street. I continue to color in Manuel de Bonheur. I also have this where it is Fairy Tales by Selina Fennick, where I already did a lot of pictures. I think that what I need to do, maybe it's about 6 pictures to finish, so not so much. But I can color several pictures in this book during 1 month, and then I want to make a break because of the quality of the paper or because I'm distracted by something new that arrived, some new book or something else, or maybe some new coloring challenge. I plan to finish this one until the end of the year, but now I am not sure. I think that the last page I did somewhere in May. Maybe now, when I again looked at this one, I feel that I miss coloring in Selina Fennick pictures. I think that the whole summer I hadn't touched any of her books, so maybe it's time. But I'm not sure that for the end of the year I will be able to finish anything. So I try not to press myself, especially now when sometimes I don't want to color at all and I prefer to stitch something. Somehow it's more relaxing. Sometimes I sit and I think that now I will color something very interesting and huge, and I got distracted, I lost my inspiration. So I really try not to press myself and to make myself any promises like you have to finish it. I just remember that I have nice pictures here, and maybe one day I will finish it, but well, we will see. Of course, better paper would improve my coloring, because with watercolors it would be easier to color. Sometimes paper, it's definitely one of the reasons why I don't finish this one or Australian animals, and why I tend to do something more simple but on the better paper, like I did here. It was much more fun to play with materials, with art supplies on the good paper, than to struggle by layering and trying to cover paper on this average paper. But anyway, it's still one of my loveliest books, and maybe one day I will have one finished book. Is there any coloring books you purchased and now regret? Well, definitely no. First of all, I don't purchase coloring books quite often, and mostly I receive them as gifts. And you know my tastes very well. Everything I got this year I absolutely love. What I purchased, what I received as gifts, I love them, I intend to color them, and I am quite happy that in my whole collection I have only several books in which I was disappointed. Mostly that's were books by Trolle, and some of the books I simply don't color now so often, but I can't say that I regret purchasing them. And definitely with time I started to be more wise in adding books to my collection, and now if I have any new books, that's definitely what I want and what I totally intend to color, so no regrets at all. And finally, if you could recommend one book release this year, what would it be? For me, it's very easy. It's definitely Mystic Vault. That's the book perfect for my tastes. Everything from the Kirby Razana style to the style of the pictures. Also that I can learn a lot of new things, so this book I can recommend to everyone. Maybe it's a little bit intimidating for the beginners, but apart from the double side spreads, we have more simplified pictures. We also have a lot of inspirational already finished pictures, already created video tutorials, so this book it's definitely my recommendation to everyone. And you know that next year Kirby Razanes will publish new book. He already published several pictures. It will be about elephants. So I'm not sure if I want to color such things. Of course you can be more creative with colors to experiment more, but I promised myself that first I want to color more in this book and to invest biggest amount of my time into this one and into Fragile World, and then I will decide about the last book. I must be honest that I also try to color more in this book and in Fragile World before there are a lot of already finished pictures. I'm always afraid that my pictures will be influenced by beautiful art which I saw somewhere in Facebook groups. So while this book isn't yet completely colored by many several times, I still try to color pictures from my own imagination without being afraid to repeat something. Anyway, that's definitely my favorite book. But I love all my books, and sometimes I regret that I can't pay enough attention to all of them. But sometimes I go to my shelves, I can find something which I abandoned for some time, and I feel that I still love this book, and yeah, let's color it. That was with this series. I realized that I hadn't touched Escape to series 4 probably from the beginning of the year, and then in August I did several pictures and I enjoyed them a lot. So I love to color my new books, I love to return to my old books, and I hope that you also have a lot of positive emotions from your coloring and your coloring book collection. So let's wait for the new books by Joseph Kettenbank, by Teresa Goodrich, of course by Kirby Razanes. And I hope that other artists also will publish something interesting. I hope that something new we will have for Christmas, because I love to add Christmas books to my collection. So if you know about some new interesting Christmas books which already were announced, please let me know. And thank you for listening.